What do we need to know about the moon in Aquarius in the natal birth chart? If you have this placement, welcome. If you don't and you're interested to learn about it in the birth chart, then welcome also. I'm Everett Cardi and I'm going to be discussing this with you. The very, very first thing is that they're very, very concerned with emotions on an intellectual level. Their emotions are more logical and intellectual than emotional. They're more interested in mental pursuits, analyzing the emotions, observing the feelings, detaching from them instead of getting caught up in them. Their feelings are more of the intellectual kind. They are also incredibly observant people. They observe things from a higher vantage point. They want to see what people are doing, why people do it. They're the scientists. They're the anthropologist. They want to observe people and what they decide to do instead of getting caught up in what they do. They're always trying to see what others do and why they do it. That's what their focus is. Someone with a moon in Aquarius may be interested in such fields as science, mechanics, and technology. They love to learn, they love to study, they love to read. Learning new things, stimulating their mind is very, very important. And it's worth mentioning that they need mental stimulation in order to feel at peace within themselves. They're always trying to sort of take things and break them apart to see how they work. They're always trying to figure out how things work by, taking things apart and then putting them back together again. Um, in that kind of curious way, in that kind of scientific way. They are natural humanitarians. There is a tendency to embody this. They're very, very humanitarian in nature. They have a very, very strong kindness for others and concern for others. But it's more of a philosophical concern. It's more of an intellectual concern where they love humanity, but individual human relationships, one-on-one relationships, it can be very, very challenging with displacement because of the detachment and the not opening up emotionally that displacement can buy. So it's good for charity, it's good for giving to large groups of people. Not the best, I would say, for one-on-one relationships because you may feel like you may be hitting a wall. Um, with a Moon and Aquarius person, that when you try to open up and when you try to get them to open up, you find that it's very, very challenging and they're just not opening up to you enough. And it can feel like you're hitting a wall. So that's sort of the only, downside that I would say, with an Aquarius Moon relationship. They can at times lack compassion for others. They may have a lot of compassion, but they don't show the compassion on their slaves. And it's worth mentioning that Moon and Aquarius people can be detached in relationships unless there are other factors in the chart that counterbalance that or that mitigate that. For example, if you have a heavy water chart, there's more tenderness, there's more emotional receptivity that can be found within these natives. They may expect others to be as independent and detached as they are. So, this sort of don't understand why people get so emotionally invested, so emotionally attached. They prefer to be independent, not codependent, not relying on another person. They want to be self-sufficient. They give you a lot of space and freedom to be yourself. They're not controlling, they're not inhibiting. They give you a lot of space to just be who you are, to express how you are. That's one of the gifts of the moon in Aquarius is understanding that everyone needs the space to really exist and express themselves and be who they are, and they allow for that to be there. They can be unreliable at times. It's also a downside with displacement. They may be trustworthy and loyal in relationships because Aquarius is a fixed sign that indicates loyalty. So in relationships, they're very easy to trust and they're very committed to their partner. They may fight for human rights, justice, equality. They don't want to exclude anyone. They fight for the underdog. They fight for the one person that is sort of the outcast or the black sheep of everybody. They don't want anyone to be excluded. They want everyone to be included, everyone to be valued equally. They believe all creatures are equal on this planet Earth. They have a lot of pride, and when they are attacked, when their pride is threatened, when their egos are threatened, when they feel attacked, they can become very inflexible and sort of give off the cold shoulder. They are very sensitive, although they do not always show their sensitivity because of that detached wall, that barrier in connecting with others. But underneath all of those layers, those sort of protective layers, is a very sensitive soul, very someone who is easily hurt. They want to be accepted just how they are. They don't want to fit into anyone's idea of who they should be, what other people think that they should be. They don't want to have to be a certain way or a certain person. They want to be authentically themselves and accepted and acknowledged for being that exactly authentically who they are. They are very original and they don't like following the crowd. They stand out from the crowd. They do very, very quirky things, different things than I don't want to say the rest of us, but a lot of people. There's quirky ways that they approach their life and they need to sort of be quirky in order to feel secure on an emotional level. That's what the moon represents. They can feel like an outcast at times. They need constant mental stimulation to feel at peace, as I've talked about earlier. They are open-minded towards logical arguments. If you give them a good, solid logical argument, they're very open to that. They're scientists at heart. They want to use their innovative mind to make the world a better place. How can you sort of take the structures of the old systems and the way that things have done with the rules and regulations and those activities that have happened in the past, innovating them to fit the world right now and in the future, and making the world a better place in that regard. That's what their sort of life's mission is. So there is an opportunity here to experience the unknown, to experience the different parts of life, the out of the box areas of life. They're very intelligent and they're very curious individuals when it comes to learning new things, and they're very smart. They may isolate themselves away from others at times. It's very, very common because of the feeling of being different, because of the detachment that's in place with the moon in Aquarius. They can overthink things. They can overanalyze things at times. They may be attracted to those who are intelligent and unique individuals. An Aquarius moon sign may perceive their mother, because the moon represents the mother, as smart, wise, and eccentric apart from others, different from everybody else. Their strong beliefs about the welfare of others and human rights. Um, don't let their aloof exterior fool you because they're very emotional internally on an internal level. They don't want to get caught up in emotionally turbulent situations. They want to remain detached in a healthy way. They're passionate about helping other people, making a difference in others' lives. They are lifetime students of life. They're personality is more of the detached and shy type, especially when young. They maybe very, very shy. Maybe they grew up feeling different than everybody else. Maybe they grew up feeling like the outcast, like the outsider. They can be cut off from the world and feel like loners. They're sort of they're, above it all, um, in a certain place, beyond the pettiness, beyond the emotional attachment. And it's pretty lonely up there because a lot of humans are very emotionally involved, and they are not necessarily that. And so it can be pretty lonely to be so detached and so cut off and not connected to other people in those kind of tender, emotional, caring ways. So they will do their best to be the most unique and unusual person they can be. They're often on the outside looking in, they're idealistic and progressive. They will deny the more irrational qualities of emotions such as possessiveness and jealousy, choosing to sort of they're over those emotions, wanting to rise up into um, more a more observant view of life, rising above the fray. That's their speciality. They don't want relationships that are petty. They're very willful in their nature. Um, they handle their strong needs with age. They're, sort of maturing when it comes to that. They have a strong desire for independence. They need freedom like they need air to breathe. Until the relationship feels comfortable to the lunar Aquarian, they won't shock you with their ideas and with their knowledge and with their theories until you get to know them enough where they feel comfortable to open up in relationships. They're rebellious, rebelling against their feeling and making up their own rules. Um, so the sort of, rebellious against a lot of different things in life. They grew up feeling, that messy emotions are unappealing. They may pride themselves on their detachment and cool-headedness. They may alienate themselves from others at times, and they may be so concerned with others' behaviors and motivations that they lose touch with their own, that they lose connection and acknowledgement of their own motivations and behaviors. So that is what you need to know about the moon in Aquarius and your natal birth chart. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.